she was a good person who had simply made one complicated mistake, the kind grown adults make when life feels too small for their lungs. At 36, she had a tidy house, a quiet husband named Daniel who fixed things before they broke, and a daughter, Lila, who still reached for her hand in parking lots. From the outside, her life looked like a catalog page. Neutral colors, polite smiles, nothing out of place. But inside, Mara felt like a pressed flower, once bright, now flattened between responsibilities. When Evan transferred into her office, laughing too loud, sleeves rolled, wedding ring glinting like a dare, she felt something unfold inside her that she had buried so deep she'd forgotten its name. It started with long lunches to brainstorm, jokes that lasted a second too long, texts about work that slowly drifted into confessions about dreams they'd given up. Evan said his marriage had been over for years, that he and his wife were basically roommates, that Mara was the first person who really saw him. Mara didn't ask many questions she didn't want answered. She told herself she deserved to feel chosen, electric, awake. The first time they crossed the line, it felt less like a decision and more like gravity. Afterward, guilt fluttered in her chest, but she smoothed it down with excuses. No one is getting hurt. This is temporary. I'm still a good mother. I'm still a good wife in all the ways that count. Karma to Mara was something that happened to reckless people in movies, not careful women who paid their bills on time and volunteered at school fundraisers. Weeks turned into months. She learned the rhythm of secrecy, deleting messages in the grocery store line, inventing late meetings, showering twice on Thursdays. Evan promised he was working on leaving his wife, that he just needed the right time for the kids. Mara pretended patience was strength instead of fear. At home, Daniel noticed she laughed at her phone more and at him less. Lila started asking why mommy missed bedtime stories on busy days. Each small lie felt manageable, like carrying one grocery bag at a time, until Mara realized she was staggering under the weight of a life split in two. The first crack came at Lila's school play. Mara had promised she would miss it, but that afternoon, Evan showed up at her office, shaken from a fight at home, needing comfort, needing her. Mara chose him. She told herself she'd slip into the auditorium late, but traffic stalled. Her phone died. And by the time she arrived, parents were already hugging children with paper crowns and crooked smiles. Leela stood with her teacher, scanning the crowd with brave, blinking eyes that broke when they landed on Mara's empty hands and breathless apology. "It's okay, Mom," she said too quickly. Mara felt something cold and sharp settle behind her ribs. That night, Daniel didn't yell. He just asked, "Where were you really?" in a voice so tired it sounded older than him. Mara lied again, and the lie tasted like metal. Karma didn't strike like lightning. It seeped like water through a ceiling, slow and staining. Evan grew distant, distracted, always almost ready to leave his wife, but never quite. Mara found herself waiting for scraps of time, canceling family plans on the chance he might call. One evening, while folding laundry, she saw a message flash across his tablet. He'd left it in her car, full of the same soft promises he'd once sworn were only for her, sent to someone saved as "new project." Her hands went numb. When she confronted him, he didn't deny it. He said he was confused, that he cared about her deeply, but didn't want to be controlled, that life was messy, and she of all people should understand. In that moment, Mara saw the shape of her own reflection in him, the justifications, the hunger, the refusal to face the damage left behind. She wasn't special. She was convenient. The affair ended not with drama, but with a dull, humiliating quiet. At home, Daniel had already found the truth: receipts, late night calls, the way she flinched when he touched her. He asked for space, then counseling, then, when trust refused to grow back, a separation. Layla stopped reaching for Mara's hand in parking lots. Instead, she walked a step ahead, small shoulders squared like she was bracing against weather. Mara moved into a one-bedroom apartment with thin walls and a view of a brick alley. The silence there was honest in a way her old life hadn't been. Nights stretched long, filled with the replay of choices she'd once wrapped in pretty words. She saw now that karma wasn't punishment from the universe. It was the natural echo of what you set in motion. She had built her happiness on someone else's fracture lines, and when it collapsed, it followed the cracks she'd ignored. But karma, she learned, wasn't only about loss, it was also about what you did next. Mara started therapy, where excuses dissolved under gentle, persistent questions. She wrote letters she never sent, to Evan's wife, to Daniel, to the younger version of herself, who thought attention was the same as love. She showed up to every school event, even the ones Lila said weren't important. She apologized without defending herself. Slowly, Lila began to talk to her again, testing trust like a loose tooth. One rainy Saturday, they baked cookies in the tiny kitchen, flour on the floor, laughter slipping out between careful conversations. It wasn't the bright, dizzy thrill she'd once chased, but it was warm and real, and didn't require hiding. Months later, Mara ran into Evan at a coffee shop. He looked the same, charming, restless, already scanning the room for the next spark. For the first time, she felt no pull, only a distant gratitude for the lesson wrapped in heartbreak. She walked past him to meet Daniel, who had agreed to try dinner together. Not as a promise, just a possibility. As they talked, awkward, honest, fragile, Mara understood that karma had not ruined her life. It had stripped it down to truth. She had lost the illusion of being the exception to consequences, and in its place, she had the harder, cleaner chance to become the kind of woman she once pretended to be.